yourself tackling the complex problems that we have to face now in modern African society in your current role?
Well, thank you. The traditional ruler or leader is a patriot. So he loves his country, he loves his kingdom, and he does everything there is to do in the world to ensure that they are served properly. So my role today includes, like my writing now, is to tackle those issues, those myths, and so on and so forth that are holding us back in the African society. More so, my kingdom, Ikwetiama, and of course, my added role as chairman of traditional rulers in my state, it is my responsibility to do everything I can do within the books and perhaps even outside the books to ensure that we have a mindset change that could overall serve us better.
Right. Thank you very much. And so let's zoom right into the book. I think the action in the book is centered around African resources, and a significant African resource for that matter, oil. And if Africa must develop, we must start some way, somehow from our resources. So I just want to know, is that an argument you agree with, and how can we begin to engage the creative use of our resources?
Yes, actually, the African must control his resources and maximize its use. Largely, the best fit example in this case is you have, of course, Ghana is identified with gold. So if you have a stash of gold somewhere, that is worth 1 billion cedis, and then you call a taxi man to come and take an Uber driver, to come and take the 1 billion cedis worth of gold to a Aswani market somewhere, for instance, for you to go and sell. Should the Uberman take 90% of that 1 billion cedis and give you 10%? Should he take 5%? Should he, you understand? But because what Africa is doing today is you have the resources, and to that extent, you are wealthy. But each time you take that resource to the market, you get broke. And so if I search the pockets of everyone sitting here today, I will find nothing. We are all in excruciating poverty, crying every day. Something fundamental is wrong. Why will resource owners, you have cocoa, for instance, and you have farmed it, your great-grandfather farmed it, your father farmed it, you are farming it, and each of you has remained broke. So we should change the thinking. If you can't pay me properly for what I have, then shove. Don't come close to my premises. Why should I allow someone into your home, to facilitate your habit to farm cocoa in a small way, and then he suddenly owns the whole cocoa, and you farmed it for generations, and you are ever broke? Your thinking has to change. The resource owner has to know that he is the owner of the resource, and everyone else is a hired hand that is bringing in to come and help him. It shouldn't be the other way around. You are coming to drill oil in my place. Suddenly you are the billionaire, and then I am the pauper. Why should that be? So these are the thinking. And I think that Africans must start thinking differently, particularly the educated African. Most educated Africans are thinking from somewhere else.
Thank you very much. So, since this is a reading and discussion session, we are going to do some reading.
Yeah.
But like I told His Royal Majesty, this book hooked me from the dedication page. I didn't even have to go too far. So I will start and let him elaborate a little bit on something interesting he touched on in the dedication page. So in the dedication page, he wrote, "This book is dedicated to every single human being on the planet, Africans and non-Africans, females, males alike, whose sincere desire is to exit the rat race, for the human race. That is what struck me. Exit the rat race for the human race. Can you please elaborate a little bit on this for us?
Okay, the truth is we are too comfortable in the rat race, which is where we exist now. Rat race, cutthroat, you know, you must win the election, you must steal their resources, you must kill, you must do that. I am feeling that is not the true human race. Of course, if you go back only 500 years ago or thereabouts, even though there were a few squabbles here and there, you'll see that, you'll agree that, particularly here, we lived in harmony with our environment and our neighbors. Yeah. So someone brought some new idea, so to speak, and since then, we've not seen peace. You know, so we've been in the rat race. And particularly for the subject of piracy, that admonition or that request had to come in, because in trying to be too smart, you must have heard the phrase penny wise, pound foolish. Yes. So in trying to be too smart, maritime business has gone up, you know, billions of dollars every year. If you recall, even the air transportation, until a few decades ago, the pilot was just in some kind of open compartment with the passengers, because no one posed a problem. And of course, you could just walk in and out of an airport, you know, if you want to travel. But since after the first hijack, okay, and multiple hijacks and bombings and so on and so forth, it is so difficult for you to travel around certain countries, even as a citizen, okay? Will that be a human environment? The truth is it is not. So this book is like calling everyone to look at it again. Can we begin to think differently and resume having our humanness? Can we become human beings again? Instead of this, I don't know what we are now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what Marx called alienation in the capitalist structure, where you become too involved in what you're doing, whether it's factory production or stuff like that, then you become alienated, and then you lose all of that human relationship and interaction that you have beautifully captured as the human race instead of the rat race. So for me, that was the beginning of getting into this book. So may I ask you to read maybe a few sections you feel you want to touch on before then we go into the discussion of that? Okay,
that will be taking it from somewhere around page 33, 32. I don't know how many minutes it will take me, but you may not, because you are not reading from the beginning, you may not grasp the essence. However, I believe it is going to sound interesting. That's why I'm reading it. Okay. So I start from page 32, and the subject matter is the story of a confessed pirate. Okay, so I read here. It is right for me to say that the particulars of my summons appeared to me live, and I got the message offering a choice between life and death, just like that. I could feel it in my pulsating heart. Not only did it ruin my birthday, but every other single day that followed until I eventually reported to the palace of Agada the Fort at Barantoro, located by the bank of the Equitiama segment of the famous River Non. Within the said period, I heard the cock crow at dawn about 2 or 3 dozen times. These were not at all the normal crow of the cocks in our rural villages. These surely sounded like an end-time roll call from a deafening megaphone, say a 100-meter diameter funnel speaker of sorts mounted up there, producing over 200 decibels of sound right into one's tympanum. I had also seen the swallows, those fast-flying, swift, sleek-looking birds, all stained with white on their underbellies. Beautiful, bluish, black, short-necked swallows flying upside down for miles on end, about a dozen times too, 7 of them at a time, each time. It seemed like they had been flying from the beginning of time and seemed inclined to go on unperturbed until the end of time. I may pause here.
Yeah. Eh, thank you. And that is one thing I find about the prose. It's colorful, it's lyrical, yet you're dealing with a serious matter. How do you find that writing creativity, combining both very colorful lyrical prose in dealing with such a crucial issue? Because somehow would have just gone straight to the point.
Well, you said here that I'm a traditional ruler or leader, as the case may be, and the gods are always with me. So I didn't read literature. In fact, I'm a scientist.
Okay.
Yes, but since I resolved to start writing in 2020 or thereabouts, it has been this way, more like trying to combat powerful establishments, trying to unveil, rewrite, retell a lie that we had accepted as truth. So I had to devise the best means possible. However, in the last couple of decades, I've listened to music. So I am actually music. And of course, in case you want to know, my younger cousin is Timi Dakolo, the famous songster from Nigeria. So we have music, in our veins, so to speak. Okay. So from all the music I've listened to all my life, somehow, when I decided to write, they just come out like songs. They just become lyrical and then rhythmical and all of that. But I believe that it is also a way to have the audience at least read it. Because if a book such as this, on a subject such as this, sounds like a school book, it becomes an ordeal to read it. So it has to be in a manner that anybody picking it will want to get to the end and apparently also get the zest in it, the zest in it, So that is why.
Okay, before we come to the subject of Paris, let's stay with the language and the writing a little bit more.
Okay.
In the beginning, when you were introduced at Chatham House to make your presentation,
yes,
there was a prayer in the native language,
yes,
which you did not translate.
Yes.
So can you please, if you can, we can read that section, and then if you can,
what page again?
Translate it for. It should be at the very start.
Come first.
14. No, 15.
15.
Yeah.
So I should start reading from where?
The one in your
italics.
language, yes.
Okay. Okay, in my mind I hummed. This is actually a song. Stiff neck.
Yeah, that's not, the song is the Bob Marley one. Next to it is the Yoruba prayer.
Okay, that's towards the end.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. This is an Ijaw prayer. It's not Yoruba.
Okay.
An Ijaw.
Sorry, apologies.
Yes, so this is also, it's a prayer but also a song. Aibaye, pasise kurubo, inemie bimok bafa o, Jehovah, pasise kurubo, yeteme. Nanawe kamekwa baraka. Anyway, but now it is a prayer that says that, oh God, the Most High, I pray you to come down, and that you did not ask anybody to create the world or to create man. And so it's like, who am I? So come and take control and lead me through this battle, So down there, Nanawe means, Nanawe is actually owner, okay, so God. So God should save me. God should keep me. Ikoko is to keep me. Nanawe D is to look at me, that's take care of me. Nanawe Gbale is to groom me. No way Tare is to love me, so God should love me. And all of that. So take me, So Ogonomo Kirimo Temedao means the creator of the heavens and the earth, Ikiri Momo, Kiri Imo Tekeme, so it is you I am praying to. Ikiri Mo Kule is you I am greeting. Ikiri Mo Tekemo, so that is the prayer to help me to navigate through that tightrope.
Yes,
because obviously there was conspiration of forces. The entire world, so to speak, the entire enlightened world was there against the Jaws, more or less. And so I had to, not even properly invited to be a speaker, but I had to go through it and ensure that I communicated the essence of my Africanness in that particular environment.
And I think it was beautifully done.
Thank you.
It was beautifully done. So now let's come to the subject matter of pirates.
Yes.
In your conceptualization, you definitely have a different take on what activities they are involved in and to what end.
Yeah.
In one section, you use the phrase thief, thief, thief. So, and then interestingly, you came up with another acronym, OTN, Oil Thieving Nations. So, could you elaborate on your conceptualization of the work of these pirates, quote unquote, and where you see them within the global superstructure?
Okay, in Equatorial Kingdom in Bayelsa State, the Benue Palace is sitting on one of the largest gas fields, okay, in this part of the world. And within about a kilometer of radius of the palace is also the most polluting gas flare in the universe. Wow. Okay, these are the realities. And of course, I'm just by the bank of the River Non, which is an extension of the River Niger. So oil and gas exploitation and the lie told, okay, I live it. Unfortunately, the lie has been told for so long that even the people that are being lied against tend to internalize it and accept it as true, okay? So this is more like trying to debunk the lies, setting the record straight. So the pirate, if you look at the cover of this, you will see a split personality, okay? One that looks actually visibly poor, and then one that looks visibly comfortable. Yes. Now, in defining an oil thief, for instance, the common definition in the books is someone who is haggard, someone who is from the place, who is native to the environment, okay? And then someone who can hardly have 3 square meals, even though it is his ancestral land where he lives on his ancestral land where the oil and gas comes from. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So he's defined in the worst of lights. But is that true? The truth is, the oil thief is never actually from the Niger Delta. It's difficult to find an oil thief from the Niger Delta. The oil thief can hardly go to the Niger Delta and stay overnight. If he has to go at all, he has to have Red Cross, Boys Brigade, Girls Guard, police, the military, Air Force, Army, and all, including ambulances, will follow him to the creeks of the Niger Delta where there are mosquitoes and, of course, there is visible squalor. He has to be protected. And the oil thief has at least a yacht somewhere in this world, and at least 1 or 2 private jets of his own. And then, of course, he has properties in England, parts of Europe, America, and so on and so forth. That is what an oil thief is. His skin is so glossy that he cannot come close to what looks like danger, to expose his skin to either abduction or to mosquito bites. That is the real definition of an oil thief. Unfortunately, the world is happy to hear that the oil thief, maybe like a mouse, is haggard and broke and has to be from the environment and has to be involved in either busting pipelines or some kind of nonsense. The oil thief, if you're an oil thief, you cannot be broke. You should have all the money in the world. So why will any haggard man who is actually a victim of oil thievery, because oil has been stolen for decades from my part of the world. So the victims of oil thievery are seen as oil thieves, okay? And the world accepts it. Sometimes even the victims themselves say we are oil thieves because they're involved in one small level of something not so complimenting. While the oil thieves does not even bother to come there. Yeah. So that is the background. Now, in Pirates of the Gulf, or the Gulf of Guinea, extends from far to, up there, beyond Guinea and all, down to Angola, down to even to South Africa. The whole of this belt is called the Gulf of Guinea. Now, piracy has been going on in the Gulf of Guinea in recent years. Of course, you know that there was some notable piracy in the Aden Gulf, okay, with Somalia and all of that. Yeah. And in this book, it is told that for 25 years, when the Somali government or Somalian government was getting weak, they wrote to every European country that was coming to steal their fish. Of course, you know they have the longest coastline. Mm-hmm. And how those fishermen were actually troubling the local fishermen and sinking their boats, if I even shooting at them, okay? So that was the background. So 25 years to UN, to European Union, to everywhere, nobody gave a damn about their complaint until the United States of America made that key error of coming to bring down Gaddafi. And so after the fall of Gaddafi, rifles, shotguns, and all types of weapons became available. So Somalian youths now had guns as well. Yeah. So they started going fishing now, armed with all kinds of weapons. And of course, the hunter became the hunted. That's right. And so particularly Italian fishermen and all of that started having problems with these young guys, to the point where at one time they took a few fishing trawlers hostage. And then they got money. Of course, note, even in getting money, some Europeans were middlemen. So they got some money, and it was cool. Then down the line, they took one ship, an oil tanker, and they got $10 million. It was like, wow. And then they took another one, and they got $9 million. Wow, wow. So why should one be bothering with fishing when you can make all this money? So they started doing that, and the world went crazy. So UN started holding meetings, one after the other, resolution, this and that, and like that, until, as we're speaking now, there is British Navy there, there's American Navy, there's World Navy in the Aden Gulf, just so that there cannot be piracy. So while that was going on, oil thieving was going on. Note that the oil stolen in the Niger Delta, you can't put it in your pockets. Okay, so they are stolen with vessels. There's no one in my kingdom that has a vessel. There's no one in my state that has a vessel. Okay? So the owners of vessels and those who can reach those who have vessels are actually the ones stealing it. And this stolen crude are taken to England and America and all other countries in this world. Okay? And they just look aside and pretend like stolen goods are not brought in. And you know how it is. If you take stolen goods, you partake of stolen goods, who are you? A big thief. And so the oil thieves, of course, include governments that are from other countries and all of that. So that is the background. So at one point, the Niger Delta, of course, the Gulf of Guinea, started getting hot as well. And so there was a resolution as well, calling on countries of the Gulf of Guinea to huddle up and begin to prepare, against what was coming, yes. And so they did that, and that is, of course, what eventually took place in Chatham House. And then the Benin of Equatorial Kingdom, which, not me, but the Benin of Equatorial Kingdom, was live there, and somehow things changed. So the pirate is not whom. The old pirate, John Silver, whatever, used to be those who drink rum, and then they do some thieving there in the high seas. But these days, the oil thief is an institution, or the pirate is an institution. Okay, persons who have transformed into institutions. foreign nations, and so on and so forth, and having accomplices, even locally, who are institutions, they now steal this stuff and all of that. So it is not, so that's the correct definition of a pirate. It is not what anybody will think. A pirate is not a gun-trotting poor man. The pirate is an institution. The pirate is a country. The pirate is someone who partakes. If I say rich man with ships and all of that, ship builders and ship owners who partake of stolen goods. So the young men who may be called pirates are victims of a grand conspiracy of very rich institutions across the world.
Thank you for that very analytical definition,
Thank
which
you.
you wouldn't find in mainstream textbooks, by the way. So let's take another reading. There was a section that I had highlighted.
Page.
For me, it's on page 11.
Page 11, that's going back again.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Maybe you might have touched on it. Oh, yes, it was actually asked it. It was the Oil TV Nations. That was the acronym that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
So maybe I'll allow you to do another reading. And
Okay, so
then
where do you want?
anywhere you think the audience might get. I do have one on page 108.
Okay, so
If
let me
you,
go
if
to
you
one.
like. It's still around resources. Or let me read it.
Okay.
So I think it was a lady asking a question. Says, she led me to reflect on the intrinsic worthlessness of raw materials to the producers in the absence of buyers, of farmers growing cocoa or coffee beans, for instance. Imagine a Ghanaian, Ivorian, or Kenyan farmer with a basket of cocoa or coffee beans. What use do this hold for the farmer if the European market refuses to buy? Will the farmer consume the beans as sustenance? Would they befit the farmer's children as a nourishing meal? Could the farmer breakfast, dine, or sup on them? This, my dear, is the crux of the matter. Over time, farmers have been swayed away from cultivating what they need. Is this still going on?
Yes, it is a reality even here, right here as we sit. So it is going on. People have been made to produce, so to speak, commodities that they sell in what is called a buyer's market. And the buyer's market is a market where you, the producer, you, the resource owner, is having little or no voice. Okay, so you have bauxite, for instance, or you have gold, for instance, or you have cocoa, for instance. And you carry this raw material that is useless to you somewhere where the man tells you, I want to buy it for 10 cedis, and you have paid 20 cedis to take it there. You can't even pay it, you can't take it back. Even if you take it back, it's useless to you. So that is the trap in which most nations, third world nations in the world, are in. And it's not restricted to Africans alone. But it's more so for Africans, where, in quotes, educated leaders are acting like they didn't go to school. Okay? So they've been educated into what some may want to define as daftness. So you have a big degree, 1, 2, 3 degrees, but you are not reasoning. Because you should know that if you take this commodity where you can't determine the price, okay, you are going to be a loser. Yes, and I know even in this Ghana, there are places where if you take some type of commodity too, without being a part of the union, Abi,
Yeah.
exactly, you are done for.
Yeah.
They will just price it cheap, and if you disagree, before you know it, they've even stolen it,
Yeah.
So that is the fate of most poor countries, so to speak, and the African is in the center of it. And I'm thinking that African leaders, particularly young people who are aspiring leaders, must understand this game, and so that when you get into position, you will attend to things slightly differently. Right. For me, coming from a place that has been polluted, beyond words for the last 70 years, and coming to places where they still have some level of nature. At least since I came in here, I've not inhaled noxious gas from combustion of petroleum products. You are still loved by God, more or less, so that you don't make the same mistake. If you have solid minerals, it's not as volatile as crude oil, which is called the black gold. So long and short is, we have to understand what runs this global con game, and do not go and hold the short end of the stick when you have the resources.
That's right.
A good percentage of the world's resources are right here in the African continent. And then the great percentage of the poorest of the poor in the world are right here. So how can you be wealthy and be poor at the same time? Something must be wrong with you. And that which is wrong with you is your head and the type of education you have gotten.
Okay. I think this will be a good point to invite some questions.
Okay, good.
So I'm going to open it up and ask if there is any burning question in the audience. We can ask His Royal Majesty.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is the microphone that will go around for the questions.
Okay.
But I would like to start, even though my question may not be burning.
Okay.
This whole question of resources, and at least in our part of the world, the burden that it brings, I think it's become more evident recently when it comes to the issue of, I don't know if I can call it illegal per se, but the incorrect mining of gold. And some of the incorrectness is so insane as to destroy the river bodies, and everybody knows that there are gold deposits on the riverbed, but that's where you get your water. So I mean, it's a balance. Now, when HRM was speaking, he was actually highlighting the fact that the buyers, those who really benefit from these resources, are not should I call it
the owners?
Yes, the excavator operators who, those are really the small fish. But those are the ones that are
at risk.
Those are the ones that we see. And so every time we speak about Galamsey, for example, we think of the bodies, the people who are holding shovels and digging out the soil. But from what he is saying, it's actually a much, much bigger spectrum, because the gold, I mean, those digging the ground probably don't even have a gold ring or necklace or anything. They don't really see it. So from the experience you have given of the Gulf, the Nigerian experience, if I should put it that way, because I can't get my geography too correct. It's been going on for a long time and doesn't seem to be ending. Now, for us, we are beginning to see the kind of damage that wrongful extraction of resources can bring. So, in a nutshell, from your perspective, is it a losing game? Because it does appear to be getting worse and worse.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a losing game. It's a bad game. But once you have the right awareness, you immediately take charge, and then the game changes. I can say for free that, because some years ago I looked at what was the numbers in my country, and I saw that importation of used cars alone ran into multiples of billions of dollars in my country. And so I now said, okay, if we say, let's not import these used cars for 1 year, do you know what will happen? There will be riots in certain countries in this world, which will not include ours. Okay, so here is the resource that you have. If you value the gold in the ground, you will come to a figure which will run into multiples of billions of cedis and dollars and euros. Okay? So if you can't bargain in a manner that a good percentage of those resources will be retained in your ground, then why not say, wait a minute, I am not ready yet to trade this particular commodity. And then you hold on, because what is going on is that there is a lot of lack of education, a lot of miseducation, even amongst those who are in charge of our nations. And so they don't know better. They are comfortable with having to feel among somewhere in New York City or somewhere in England or somewhere in Brussels or somewhere. They just feel comfortable when you promise them something, a limousine or whatever, you know. So I am thinking that if we get better informed, and that is why I've taken the pains to come here today. If we get better informed, I can tell you that overnight, everything can change. Because you can't have it and yet be broke. Each time you take it out, you get broke. You take it out, you get broke. Then let it sit here for a while and let's see how it will go, you know. So it's not a losing game. It's just a matter of awareness.
Yeah. And I think what is even more interesting is I once read a paper that demonstrated, you know, when it comes to pricing commodities, raw commodities, you know, it's determined on the London Stock Exchange and some other places. What is striking is they even buy it, they will give you the notion that a price only appreciates when they process it. So they buy it very cheap here. But then some researchers have revealed that some of those countries who buy it very cheaply here will sell it at an even higher price without any processing.
Cutthroat.
Yeah,
Cutthroat
without
price.
any processing.
They don't blink.
You know, will sell the same thing. They say they bought the cocoa here for 5 cedis. They sell the same unprocessed cocoa for 20 cedis on a different market. Right?
You're right.
And that is interesting because then they beat down our price and then do their own thing in their own market. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's quite cutthroat.
Maybe just to add, you know, prior to when Europe, you know, Europeans started coming, particularly in the last 500 years, they were having difficulties feeding, okay? At least there are some accounts where some explorers came, when they came to Nigeria, and they wrote that at the same time when the streets of Benin were paved and there were street lamps everywhere, that in London, people were killing for a penny. You know, they chisel people, knife people, and all of that. And they were eating rats and all of that. They were written by Europeans, okay? So it was like, it was a losing game at that time for them. Today, is it a losing game? No. So you don't have to give up to say it is a losing game. It can't be a losing game. You just need to start thinking differently, and automatically everything will change because you have it right under your feet.
All right. Any more questions? Yes, there's a question.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Accra. Some of what you're saying will upset some important people who earn money from this piracy. Do you fear for your safety?
Thank you so much. This is like the 20th time that I've had this question. So far, I have 5 books, and they all have this coloration because they are called, literature experts call it faction, you know, so they are factions. So they are facts. But given what I represent today as a traditional ruler of the Ekpotiama people, and having been once a soldier, that's also a title of one of my books, death is just another thing, which means that if I die today in Ghana, then I'm dead. I think it's the living that will get worried about the dead. So I'm not particularly afraid of dying, you know. Unfortunately, that is the way I am. So I think that we cannot keep living a lie. And the truth is, even those who are making money from all of these are suffering. There is a chapter in the riddle of the
oil thief.
Yes, the riddle of the oil thief that is titled Elite's Myopia. Okay, where the elite, the thieving elite himself, is a victim of his own device. Okay? For instance, in the 70s and 80s, back in Nigeria, when you go to the GRA, there were no fences in the houses. Okay? Everyone lived safely, freely. And then it got to a point where you had to have some small see-through fence, and then now you had to have a 1-meter concrete fence, and then 2-meter concrete fence. Now you put electric wires, and you bring snakes and dogs and drones and all. And then you have to have a bulletproof toilet so that your enemies do not get at you. How can you be so stupid why not liberalize and try to be a human being again so that everyone can live freely? Because I know there are some parts of this world where if you go and park your limousine and leave the key in the ignition, nobody will bother you. Nobody will even look at the vehicle. In fact, it even looks too bogus. So nobody will bother you. It is possible. Before Europeans actually came here in their numbers, there were jails in Europe. There was not half a jail in my kingdom. In fact, in the whole of Ijaw land, jails are alien. Okay? Until about 200 years ago, they built one. That was also not in Ijaw land. And then, of course, the slave, what do you call it, warehouse, we could call it a jail. But jail is not part of our lifestyle. We are able to resolve everything amongst ourselves. So jails came from Europe when we had no jails. Today, as we're speaking, I hear that in Finland, no more jails. The jails are now theaters. The jails are now like this place, where you go and learn things. You go to the Netherlands, you hardly see jail. If you go, anything that looks like a jail, you see everything in the world. You see KFC there, you see theater there, you see enjoyment there. And then now, you go to Ghana now, you see the most deadly jails, overpopulated jails. There is a swap. And you have to know that a swap has happened. How can you be so alive and educated and you do not know that the rug has been removed under your feet? So in essence, that is what this is trying to communicate. So if anybody is interested in that, the gods are also on my side.
Let me chip in something interesting because concerning, we almost won. Okay, so concerning what you said, in our open market today, when our market women and mothers clothes, they still sometimes just cover their wear with just a cloth and leave it go and come back overnight. No one is going to touch it. But when you go to Macy's or any supermarket outside and they close,
so they chain it.
I'm telling you, there is chain and security alarm and everything. That is quite interesting to know that, like you said, there is human relation that we probably are losing in this game of capitalism or whatever game it is that we are playing. That it is actually imperative that we leave the rat race and come back
to the human race. You're welcome to the human race.
Thank you very much. I think this would be the end of our discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, His Royal Majesty. Oh, there's one question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As an African born in a native village, when you mentioned the cock crow, I was closely following that. It really inspired me. But you went on and said that the pirates said it was actually loudspeakers placed up there. And, sir, please, I want to know who placed those loudspeakers up there? Is it the pirate or the thief? Or any deeper explanation, please?
Okay, thank you. I think that was just trying to capture the, in quotes, first pirate's story. If you read the book, you will discover that there was a young man who is a victim of piracy who thought he was a pirate. And he was going about bragging as a pirate, gun-trotting pirate with bandana all over, with a gang of boys, and could just kill at any moment. And he did. He said he had indeed killed so many. So he thought he was a pirate until the gods of the land summoned him. So when he was summoned, and he saw there's a chapter titled Summon. So when he was summoned, traditionally, he was invited by the gods. He tried to be stubborn. So it was in that his stubbornness that he now started seeing things that were not usual. So he saw those, of course, he heard the corkscrew, at odd times. He saw the birds flying upside down, and then he heard things that were sounding so loud, so irritating him. More like saying, come and answer to your call, or you get killed, And so he eventually heeded the call and went to the palace to atone to whatever he was being summoned for. And that is where this whole story came from.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more question. Okay. Can we take one more? Or we can't? Okay. Please, and there are copies of the book available to purchase at the book stand. There are copies.
Okay, thank you, sir. My question is, all of these things that you are explaining, the exploitations of our resources and what have you, I want to know as to whether we African, can we actually make it without the European country? Like, for example, we have our resources here, like the cocoa, the coffee, and what have you, and they are here with us. Now we sell it to them, and then the manufacturer is, if you want to go to school, like for you are, and I don't know what nationality you belong to.
Nigeria.
Nigeria, very good. And after maybe your secondary or you advance to the white man home before you come back to be able to write all of these things. Now, can we, as an African, do without the European country? Thank you.
Okay, so it's like the question is similar. It's like saying, can I get home without an Uber? Okay? So I'm going to take an Uber, but if I take a bag of gold into that Uber, I should not leave the Uber getting poorer. So you must bargain and ensure that the Uber, you pay for what is on the, what do you call it, on your phone. Okay, the amount, the correct price for that trip, and not the merchandise you are carrying. So far, the African is blindly, okay, letting go of all he has. He's not bargaining well. Someone is cheating him every day. So it's not about whether we can do with or without them. It's a world, okay? So if you want my expertise, for instance, you should pay the right price, right? Good. And so you should also value what you have, which is the gold or cocoa or oil properly, and let no one come and dictate to you how much you have to sell it. If he has to dictate to you, tell him, oh, but wait small first. I'm never ready.
Thank you very much. Copies of the book, if they are available, where they can find it.
Yes, so thank you very much. We have to wind down this session, but it's a really energetic session. I love it. Copies of this latest book and earlier books by HRM Bubaraye Dakolo are available at the front desk. So if you've been excited by this short discussion, you'll probably be blown away by the book itself. It's called Pirates of the Gulf, and there are copies right there. So thank you very much, HRM and Noble, for such an engaging session. Thank you. Thank you.